Morning Tribe. My name is Yanni Bormeister, and to the right of me is Rad, and we're here for our morning motivation for Unity V. Today we're talking about how to know when to progress your exercise. We're also going to be answering a few of your questions. All that and more coming up. We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image. All right, so in case we haven't met before, we are Unity Gym, the place where health... Fuck. Excuse me. In case we haven't met before, my name's Yanni and this is Rad, and we are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about how your body performs and feels, not just how you look. Now, today we are going to take a deep dive into the concept of exercise progression, and we're going to talk about the importance of good form and technique, particularly when you're practicing calisthenics and gymnastics, strength and conditioning, and also when to progress your exercise. First up, Rad, how are you feeling, mate? You got your computer sorted now?
Yeah, I do. I keep forgetting to turn the volume down, and then when it comes up live, I have my computer open with the live feed here so that we can see if anybody asks questions and we can answer them. And then when it goes live, because there's a delay, I always forget to turn my volume down. And I'm laughing for two reasons. The first one is that even after telling Yanni that every day he goes like this at the start of the episode, he still did it today, and it was
serious?
Yeah, it was funny.
I was so conscious of it. I was trying.
He doesn't do that
it.
ever any other time in his life, except when he introduces this show. He goes like that. Anyway, and the other reason I'm laughing is because now that I can see myself, I realise I really should have done a trip to wardrobe and makeup today. Because I'm wearing...
If you guys could actually see what his singlet looks like, it looks like it's been attacked by moths.
I'm wearing this is a 20-year-old shirt from my Kung Fu Academy, and it's still being held together, and it's like
it's time to retire, mate.
It's like a relic.
It's like Golden Boy from Seinfeld.
It is. It's Golden Boy. No, I'm not retiring it until it falls apart. I don't buy new clothes until they literally fall off me. So anyway.
One day, Rad's going to come in. He's going to be really upset, and we're going to say why, and he's going to say Golden Boy didn't make it.
Anyway, so anyway, that's why I'm laughing. So a question about technique. We had one of our members on the Movement Mastermind, our online coaching group, Anna Singh, asked us the question.
Hi, Anna.
Hi, Anna. Hope
keep
you're watching this.
It.
Yeah, keep crushing it. You're doing awesome. Loving seeing your progression with your mobility and all the videos that you're uploading, and really happy to answer this question for you. So the question is, when doing the front body line and you've got all your postural cues and you're lifting your hands off the ground, are you focusing on trying to depress the scapula? The short answer for that is absolutely not. That is the opposite, the complete opposite of what you're trying to do. It's a really good question though, because I get there's so many technique cues where we're telling you to depress the scapula. It happens so often with pulling movements.
That's retracting the scapula. What you demonstrated,
depressing, so pulling down.
Yeah.
So there are so many movements that involve pulling where we do that. We depress the scapula, but that certainly does. I've got to get used to it. I'm going to look at this camera when I'm talking to the audience, so I'm going to get used to it.
If we seem like we're being really rude and we're not looking at you in the eye, it's because we genuinely don't know which camera to look at, and there are 3 up there, so bear with us.
We're getting used to it. This
ladies
is all
and gentlemen.
new to us. So.
Hopefully I'm looking at the right camera now.
Anyway, here we go. So when you do the front body line, you're practicing for a handstand, and when you're practicing for a handstand, you're practicing to do shoulder elevation. So your shoulders should be elevating as much as possible when you do a handstand. So when you do that front body line, really the number one thing is just to lift your hands up, but you can definitely try and elevate the shoulders, which is to push them away from your body. And that is... what we wanted to go, Yanni asked what else are we going to talk about in this episode, and I wanted to go a little bit deeper into... Have you got anything else to say about the front body line?
No, that's pretty much it. Oh, the only thing I like that I've started to do recently from my personal experience is really go hard on the shoulders on the front body line. Once you've established the glute and the tummy and the core components of it, and you kind of stop. For the first like 6 months of doing it, I was squeezing my legs so tight that I got foot cramps I am really working on the shoulders, and I've started to really hold the dowel rod very close together because I've got a little bit of muscle mass in my shoulder that makes it hard to hold quite close in. And I found that it's really helped on my handstand because it just helps to precondition your shoulders for that handstand. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So, but what I wanted to talk a little bit more about is technique in general for calisthenics and weightlifting and the importance of it, and progression and the way that you progress from one exercise to the next, which is something that that so many people get wrong. It's something that I've certainly gotten wrong multiple times through my training, and it's something that if you get it right, your results are just going to skyrocket, and if you get it wrong, it's really going to hinder you. So what you want to understand is how to be able to determine where you are versus where you're meant to be. And you need to look at people's, instructional videos for that. You need to be able to compare yourself to the people that you're learning from. So if you're learning online, you need to look at your instructors. You need to really listen to the cues and watch the tutorial over and over again. It's not just a watch it once kind of thing. Like when I learn from people online, I become obsessed with watching tutorials. I just watch them over and over again, and then I'll do it for a week, and then I go back and watch it again, and I'll watch one tutorial video, anywhere from 20 to 100 times, honestly, to really to get a full-on imprint in my mind of what this movement is meant to look like. And then through that and through trying it and then watching myself, you can, get an understanding of how you're meant to do it. And, of course, hopefully you're doing online coaching where you have access to your coach and you can send them videos and get feedback from it. But then what you need to do is you need to assess yourself, versus what you're meant to be doing. And even if your program says you're meant to progress, if you're not ready, if you haven't mastered the technique of what you're doing, you probably shouldn't be progressing. And this is where most people get it wrong. Most people think like they've got a 4-week program or a 6-week program, and they do their block, and then they move on to the next, the next cycle in the program, the next mesocycle, and they just go to the next exercise because that's what the program says to do. But so often, especially with calisthenics, you need to spend more time on the progression that you're on because your body hasn't mastered it yet.
It's quite interesting, and this is we spoke a little bit yesterday about this. This is where you need to start getting a little bit more creative with your Cali programming. You need to understand intra and interset overloading a lot more, I think, in calisthenics, because you need to understand how to manipulate the variables of volume and intensity without having to change an exercise.
Yep.
When you're doing traditional strength training, it's really easy because you can just go from one exercise to the next on the different mesocycles of your training. And there's always a million options. There's a million options to do a bicep curl, and there's not literally, but there are probably 20 different bicep curls, and then you can also change the neurological pathway with traditional strength training. You can go from dumbbells to barbells to cables to body weight, and stuff like that. But with calisthenics, you're limited to generally one pathway, which is body weight. Now, at Unity Gym, we're lucky because we've designed a gym that we can still use external weight to load, and we do that because we have a traditional strength training background and we understand the benefits of that. But that just gives us a few extra tools in the toolbox, But if you guys are limited with what you've got out there, then it's really important that you understand the concepts of overload and the different variables that you can manipulate, which primarily are sets, reps, time under tension, the rest between your sets, and then things like mechanical drop sets, which we call hybrid sets. Because all of those things become really critical tools that you can use, that you need to understand because you don't have barbells, kettlebells, dumbbells, bands, rings, cables, things like that, like a big gym would have. So yeah, it's important, The other thing is, one thing that I've noticed a lot now that we hang out, we've been able to connect and hang out with a lot of people who are far superior to us, further along their journey with calisthenics than we are. One of the things that has absolutely stood out to me, and you would probably be able to back this up with the time that you spent with Ido Portal. There are programs out there that have 1 million progressions. Like literally, there's like 10 progressions to get you to even a half front lever or whatever, you know, and things like that. And that's all good and well because it keeps you entertained. But in most cases, the guys that are really good at calisthenics, they haven't used that many progressions to get where they are. They just practice the basics over and over and over and over and over again. And they learn how to use the variables like inter exercise and intra exercise or set overload. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. It is, I think that there's, everybody is different. That's another thing that people have to understand. Everybody responds to programming differently. Like some people come in and you show them how to do a tuck planche for the first time and they can just do it, you know. And then, like for me, I've had to work my absolute butt off to get anywhere close to being able to do a tuck planche. And you know, the same can be said for so many other movements. So it's different for everyone. And one of the worst things that you can do is compare yourself to other people, is to look at other people and say, oh, well, that's what they're doing and they only did this for 6 weeks, so I've done it for 6 weeks, so I should go there. So, you know, what we do at Unity Gym, we start everybody at a low level, and we do that because we've been in the industry professionally now for 15 years, going on 16 years, and we've seen so many injuries. And what happens when you train people the way that they want to be trained, which is always, actually, I shouldn't say that. It's getting less like that now. We're starting to attract more people that want to go about things the slow way because they've injured themselves elsewhere. But back in the day, especially back when we were at Fitness First, everybody wanted to be, you know, just get straight onto the barbells and doing bench pressing and deadlifting and squatting. And we used to let them. We used to let them dictate what program they were going to do, and people always got injured. They got tendonitis in the forearms, or they, you know, busted their back or their hips because they were doing shit that they weren't ready for. And so we've come to a point with our programming now where we tell people what they have to do. And it's not for some people. Some people don't like it. Some people come in and after a month they say, oh, I don't like feeling like I'm being held back. And it's a shame because I can just see that injury, you know, around the corner before they can see it. And yeah, so what going back to Yanni's question, what do I think about this idea of the really good calisthenics guys and the really good people spending more time on basics? Man, absolutely. Absolutely. Like I've been pursuing this movement thing for over 2 decades now, if you consider my time with martial arts, and every good teacher that I've ever worked with, like it doesn't matter how good you get, when you work with the next teacher that hasn't worked with you, what do they do with you? Like when we worked with Yuri Mamestain came to our gym and did a private session with us, and what were we doing? We were doing the basics with him again, you know, and we did basics for like a couple of hours, and then at the end we did a few more advanced stuff, and it was awesome because we got cleaned up on all this stuff that just propelled our ability with hand balancing and with calisthenics to the next level. You know,
Miguel Santana was the same.
Yep.
We were working on core. Like he looked at our handstands and was just like, "Oh man, you guys aren't strong enough in the core. We're all lying on the floor again, doing front and back body lines." You know,
and that was a couple of years ago now. So when we worked with those guys, but just learning those basics and then really understanding that and spending countless hours on it, and our ability has gone through the roof since then. You know. Versus, you know, before we worked with those really good guys, just trying to constantly go to the next progression and feeling like, oh well, I must be ready to do something else, and you try something that you're just not ready for, and then you waste 6 months just doing rubbish.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's something that you know, I think it's hard because there's an element of you wanting to be entertained when you exercise. You want, you know, I was talking to one of our tribe members here at the gym yesterday who's an ex-professional swimmer, very, very fit, you know, and it's her first time doing calisthenics program, and, you know, she said she's loving it, but there's an element of letting go of that old identity of going to a gym because you just get slayed and you get like the endorphin rush from that. But it's, you know, it's not really long-term sustainable because it's sort of, to a degree, always just beating yourself up, you know, and you got to take all that into consideration as well.
Yeah.
You know,
I reckon when you start calisthenics, and our program isn't just calisthenics. If anyone's watching here, we're not a calisthenics gym. We do something called the Foundation Movement System, for those of you that don't know, and that's something that we've created ourselves, Richard, Yanni, and me, drawing on all of our experience. So Yanni and Richard have more experience than I do in weightlifting and traditional strength training, and I've got more experience than they do in calisthenics and gymnastics and martial arts. And we've sort of brought the best of that together to create a program that has an equal focus on strength and mobility, and that uses the best elements of weightlifting and the best elements of calisthenics and gymnastic strength.
And puts all of that in the correct sequence of learning: mobility, stability, and then strength.
Yeah.
Not backwards, where people go to strength and realize they've got no stability and mobility and hurt themselves.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, to go even a tiny bit deeper, like weightlifting, the exercises from traditional strength training and weightlifting for the lower body are far superior to anything that calisthenics or gymnastics has. And anyone that isn't a specialist would agree on that. If you look at any of the people that are the top performers in the world that aren't just calisthenics or gymnastics coaches, they'll all tell you that that you need to do weightlifting for the lower body. But then for the upper body, calisthenics and gymnastic strength training is arguably superior for developing an upper body physique and for skill movement. So that's why we bring that stuff together. But, you know, going back to this this idea of when do you progress, if you haven't done calisthenics before, and I hadn't a few years ago, we've only been doing calisthenics for a few years, man, do you have to become a beginner again.
You got to suck some humble pie.
You seriously have to accept that when you start body weight training, you know, like your strength training will help, your mobility will help, but you are going to be a beginner again. It is a completely different beast. It's a new neurological pathway to develop strength. You're working on primarily closed kinetic chain movements, whereas if you've done a lot of weightlifting, definitely a lot of bodybuilding, you're probably used to a lot of open kinetic chain movements. It's a really different way of using the body, and you have to accept that you are going back to being a beginner and you need to work on the basics. And we had Ben Pekulski in here the other day, and a friend of his, Mick, both extremely strong guys and extremely accomplished in what they were doing, but when it came to the calisthenics, the basics, they were back to beginner. And Ben loved it because he loves this beginner mindset.
I was actually talking to some of the guys here about that yesterday. What fascinated me and what really took me back and surprised me was how a guy that has achieved such a level of mastery in his field, which is professional bodybuilding, has actually cultivated an attitude, the Shoshin attitude, which is a Japanese term for embracing the beginner mind. And no matter how experienced you are in something, always being able to approach it as a beginner. He was incredible. There was no ego. He walked into the gym and he knew he was coming in for something different that he'd never done before. And although he was at such a high level in strength training and bodybuilding, there was just zero ego. He was just like, yep, you guide us. I have, I'm at your mercy. And he just sucked it up and really enjoyed it and got a lot out of the session. And both of the guys did, they've been raving about it. And I was just blown away by how much someone at such a high level could just shelve all ego and everything.
So was I.
Just,
that was surprising, because normally when people come in here that have got a background in weightlifting, they want to tell you what they're going to do. And they try to tell you, no. And I asked Ben at the start of the session, if any of you don't know who Ben Pekulski is, Google him. Ben, Pekulski. And
on that, we're publishing a video on Sunday, US time,
of him training
Monday morning, that we've put together of him doing his first calisthenics session. It's worth a watch. It's brilliant.
And he was just totally humble, and he just wanted to just learn the basics and loved it, because that's where, the more experienced the person is, the more they understand the value in the basics.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to a question, because we are running out of time. We're going to have to wrap this up soon. So Diogo Felipe, I hope I'm getting your name right, bro. has said, I got a 30-second plus handstand today after following your exercises for a couple of weeks. Awesome, bro. How good is that?
Unreal.
That's unreal, man.
Big ups, brother.
There's a method to the madness, and we've learned from some unbelievable coaches. We've worked face-to-face with Ido Portal, Miguel Santana, Yuri Mamestain, Aaron McKenzie from Origin of Energy, probably the most notable for hand balancing, and those guys are all unbelievable, so we've learned from some really good people.
Yep.
And Diogo also has asked, what's the difference between closed and open kinetic chain exercises? This is a concept that a lot of people really don't get, and the best way to describe it is, there's a lot of different ways to describe it. The way that I like is an open kinetic chain is when your center of mass stays still and the end of your limbs are either moving towards or away from your center of mass through three-dimensional space. A closed kinetic chain movement is when the end of your limbs are stationary and your center of mass moves away or towards the center of limbs through three-dimensional space. So a really good example, if you want to talk about a vertical push and pull, an open kinetic chain vertical push would be a seated dumbbell shoulder press. So you're sitting down and your arms are moving towards and away from your center of mass, versus a closed kinetic chain vertical push would be a handstand push-up, where your hands are fixed on the ground and your body moves moves to and from the hands. And for a vertical pull, an open kinetic chain would be seated, lat pull down, so your center of mass is still and your hands are moving to and from, and a pull-up would be a closed kinetic chain because your hands are stationary and your center of mass moves. So that's what an open kinetic chain versus closed kinetic chain
is. I like to think of it a little bit more simply, whereas a closed kinetic chain is when you're moving your body, and an open kinetic chain is when your body is moving an object.
Yeah. So we actually do open kinetic chain and closed kinetic chain elbow circles for our warm-up. So this is where it can start really fucking with your head. So an open kinetic chain circle with the elbows would be doing this, and a closed kinetic chain circle with the elbows would be doing this, where my hands stay still and the elbows are moving. So
we just throw that sort of stuff into our program to confuse our tribe and make sure that they stay on point with their education.
Yeah, so I hope that answers your question, Diogo, and thanks for the praise, bro. Yeah, we are going to be doing this every day, 5 days a week. Really great to hear that you're enjoying the content and the channel. So we've probably got time only for one more question today, guys. I'm really sorry. So Jay Hassale 0, I hope I'm saying that right. Do you have any dancers that use any of your programs? Absolutely, we do. So we've got
3 at the moment.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. So we've got a couple of professional dancers that train here, and we've had multiple dancers in the past, but currently we've got two professional dancers. One of them was just got accepted into the Australian Ballet, so a very high level ballet dancer, and another is a ballroom dancer.
What does Janos do?
Ballroom. Janos does ballroom.
Yeah.
So they pretty much, our friend the ballet dancer definitely didn't come to us for flexibility. They came for strength. They wanted to develop strength to be able to do lifts.
End range strength.
End range strength. And the ballroom dancer came to us for flexibility, wanted to get more flexible. So great question. And a lot of our mobility warm-up, not a lot of it, part of our mobility warm-up actually comes from dance. So when we do our spinal mobilization, all this kind of stuff, that actually comes from dance. So great question. And 9:20, we are going to have to wrap this up.
Just give a quick shout out to everyone that's on there. Who else has joined us today?
So just thanks for your questions, Diogo and Jay Hassale 0. Anyone that we didn't get to, we will answer next week. I can't actually see all the viewers.
Okay.
So thanks for watching, guys. Anyone that's got any questions, you can leave them in the comments. And Diogo Felipe saying ballroom dancer. Really, please, I'm a ballroom dancer too. Give me his Instagram details. I'll have to, bro. I don't know what his Instagram details are, so I will. I'll find out for you. And yeah, any questions? Just put a post on any of our videos, and we will answer them daily. We come at you live, 8:45 a.m. in Australia. Not sure what time that is over in the States.
Yeah.
It'll definitely be in the evening. But anyway, guys.
And also, keep an eye out this weekend. We're publishing a couple of two new really cool videos, 2 new exercise videos. We're also putting the video where Rad takes a couple of very high-level professional bodybuilders through their paces for their first calisthenics workout. And we've got some great content coming at you next week too, guys.
Yeah, two more real quick things. If you haven't already done this and you want to get started with us, we've got our free flexibility blueprint download.
I've linked it in the description.
There's a link in the description. And the big one, everything that we're talking about at the start of this episode about understanding intra exercise and inter exercise progression and overload techniques and volume manipulation, all these things. Yanni is working his butt off right now to create a free download for you guys that you can get to learn all of that, because it is a beast of a thing, a lot more than we can speak about in one half-an-hour episode. And if any of you guys want to take your strength training to the next level, keep an eye out for that. Hopefully we'll have it ready in the next few weeks for you guys for a free download.
Yep, Strength Essentials, guys, look out for it.
Yep, and besides that, until tomorrow, we will see you guys soon. Enjoy your training.
Awesome, take care. We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.